Zippity-doo-dah, zippity-yay, I've been banned by Disney, Earned me an Oscar for my portrayal, now my movie's never for sale. Yes, sir, I'm James Baskett, and I'm in heaven. But I'm also in hell. You see, in 1946, after decades of hard work and paying my dues, I starred in a major motion picture. Not only did I star in this picture, but I was awarded an Academy Award for my role, making me the first black man in history to be so honored. Here's me receiving the award the same year I died in 1948. But you probably don't know anything about that, because my movie's been locked away in the Disney vault since 1986. At least if you live in the United States. I thought, well, that's okay. Everything eventually comes out of the vault. But now with Disney Plus, I hear the vault's wide open. You can see everything from Darkwing Duck to the Apple Dumpling Gang. So I was like, all right, let's check out my movie. But you know what? It's not there. What movie am I talking about? Of course, I'm talking about the 1946 classic, Song of...
Stop it right there. It's racist.
The Song of the South?
You said it.
Song of the South is not racist.
You said it again.
All right, now calm down. I won't say it anymore. I'll just say it's not racist, and frankly, I'm deeply insulted at the insinuation that it is.
Oh, have you even seen your movie? You literally portray a happy slave subordinate to white people.
I'm African American, and I starred in the movie. If I thought there was anything wrong with it, do you think I would have been in it? I even said so when I was still on Earth. So did Hattie McDaniel. She said so too.
You did it for the money, just like Bojangles and Step and Fetch It, and Will Smith. You were an oppressed actor desperate to make ends meet, and you had to take the role.
Had to? I didn't have to anything. I did this because it was a good opportunity. It started off as just a side gig. I was doing a lot of radio at the time, so I was originally going to just do a cartoon voiceover thing like, I did on Dumbo.
You were in Dumbo?
Sure I was. I was one of the Black Crows.
It's even worse than I thought. You're an Uncle Tom.
Really? You're going with that old cliche? Okay, well tell me, since you seem to care so much about black people, why is Song of the South... Sorry. Why is my movie racist?
I already told you it shows poor, highly stereotyped African Americans happily serving white people as their social inferiors.
Like Alfred from Batman? Or Alice on the Brady Bunch? Or Mr. Belvedere? Or what about Mary Poppins? Why is it when white people portray lovable characters working for rich people, you don't say that's racist? Why is it whenever a black man or woman does it, we're doing something wrong?
First of all, in a truly classless and egalitarian society, no one should be anyone else's house servant.
Okay, sure, but they are, and we tell stories with characters who are. So why can't black people just portray any character that they want?
Because African Americans are historically marginalized, and this perpetuates a dangerous trope that will only give rise to more prejudice and persecution in the future.
So we can't because we're black.
Precisely.
I don't know. That sounds racist. Whoa there, hear me out. I know you mean well, wanting to protect black people from themselves and all that. But has it ever dawned on you that burying my movie, and therefore my legacy, as the first black man to ever be given an Academy Award, is actually a disservice to black people? Why shouldn't my family, for instance, be allowed to share in that groundbreaking history?
That legacy is tainted. Song of the South is practically a minstrel show full of hurtful stereotypes, and it depicts slaves happily subordinate to white people without due respect to their humanity. Second, you didn't win that Academy Award, you were given it. late and only as an honorary Academy Award. It's more of an insult than anything.
I earned that Academy Award. The only reason I didn't get a nomination was because I wasn't given top billing. The film was promoted as starring Ruth Warrick because she was a well-known actress and Hollywood believed in the commercial power of stardom. Now, I'm not saying that's right because it wasn't. But the fact of the matter is that many people remember my Uncle Remus, and no one today has even heard of Ruth Warrick. Walt Disney himself felt I deserved recognition and fought to make sure it happened. It was a moral failure on the part of Disney to fail to give me top billing when I was the most important character in the movie. But he rectified that. You'd repeat that failure and have me buried all over again.
Bury a racist caricature? Sure.
Well, calling it racist doesn't make it true. I'll admit, however, that I did play a highly stereotyped caricature of a rural southern black man from the 1800s. I mean, it's making a movie. That's really just part of what we do. Again, why is it okay for Marlon Brando to play a cappuccino-sipping, spaghetti-slurping Italian mobster? Or why is it okay for Bill McKinney to play an inbred, depraved hillbilly in Deliverance? Why can white people play stereotypes such as the drunken Irishman or the tough cowboy? Well, I'm not allowed to play Uncle Remus, one of the most famous figures from American literature.
But can't you see that Uncle Remus is a racist stereotype? You just played the magical Negro trope. There's no honor in that.
Oh no, not the magical Negro. Please tell me one other example of a so-called magical Negro other than Uncle Remus in Song of the South.
Well, what about Morgan Freeman?
That's right, Morgan Freeman. Has it ever dawned on you that Morgan Freeman actually is magical? That's why he played God. Listen, 2 instances of something doesn't make it a trend, nor racist. What do you make of Mary Poppins, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Willy Wonka, Gandalf? Why is it white people are allowed to be magical mentors, but if a black man does it, he's doing something wrong? Again, the only racist idea is the assumption that I don't have the right to be magical, on account of the color of my skin. Magical Negro, who comes up with this nonsense?
But these weren't just any black stereotypes, though. Why don't you just admit that? This was part of the American minstrel tradition. This is the entertainment of subjugation.
Minstrel shows made black people out to be buffoons. But in our movie, if anything, it was the white people who were the buffoons. Minstrel shows were intended to mock black people, to degrade them. Key and Peele is more of a minstrel show than anything that I did. I played Uncle Remus, an esteemed man of wisdom and virtue. I was possibly the first black person to ever play such a strong, positive lead in a film for general audiences.
Then why did they make you talk like that?
Because that's how the character was portrayed in Joel Chandler Harris's stories. Harris lived and worked with former slaves from whom he got the idea for the Uncle Remus stories. From this experience, he recorded what he claimed was a certain kind of dialect, like Mark Twain attempted in Huckleberry Finn. The characters in his stories spoke according to what were supposed to be authentic, lost dialects of the American South. It's not intended to mock anyone. It's intended to reflect just one of the 1,001 different funny ways people in our country like to talk. Look at Matt Damon and Ben Affleck in Good Will Hunting. No one complains how they talked funny, because it was understood they were portraying the stereotypical Irish working class of Boston. That's a group of marginalized people, but somehow being white makes their portrayal okay.
But they portrayed characters who were actively at odds with their social plight. You played a slap-happy-go-lucky singing slave who cared more about a little rich white boy than your own personal freedom.
To be accurate, Uncle Remus is supposed to be a freedman. The Song of the South is set during the Reconstruction period, after the Civil War. He's not a slave, he's a sharecropper.
But you can't really tell that from just watching the movie. You're left with the false impression that slaves were more than just a little content to be someone else's property. Remember the scenes where the white lady scolds Uncle Remus for telling the little boy stories? Uncle Remus just sheepishly takes it. Or what about those scenes of all the black people happily singing on their way to and from the fields? Or the obsequious vigil held outside the big house when Johnny's gored by the bull? The black people in the movie seem more concerned about wholeheartedly tending to their white overlords than their own welfare. There's a scene where Uncle Remus decides he's had enough and starts to run away to Atlanta. But my question is, what in the hell was he waiting for? There's a certain racist line of thinking out there that appeals to the idea that black people were better off as slaves, and that they were happier out on the plantation. Good intentioned or not, your slap-happy obsequious portrayal of what you call a sharecropper sure comes awful close to exemplifying the worst kinds of justification for slavery. The idea that black people are slaves by their very nature, and that maybe, just maybe, the old Southern way of life before the Civil War was actually the best way for them to go.
But have you heard the music? Oh, it's some of the very best music ever produced for any Disney film ever. And do you remember the incredible animated sequences? I tell you what, that Brer Rabbit sure could get into some mighty heap of trouble.
Oh, I remember the animated sequences. Surely they're the best part of the movie. But do you remember the Tar Baby?
But do you remember the Tar Baby?
Do you remember the Tar Baby?
What about it?
Tar Baby? Really? You don't have any problem with that?
Not within this context, no. A tar baby isn't being used here as a racial epithet, but rather it is literally a particular kind of trap set by Brer Fox for Brer Rabbit. In fact, the term tar baby didn't even enter into the lexicon until it was published by Joel Chandler Harris in his stories about Uncle Remus and Brer Rabbit. The term comes from this fable, and it's unclear that it was really ever used as a racist slur by anyone. Honestly, when was the last time you heard anyone use the term tar baby? What Quentin Tarantino movie uses the term tar baby?
It doesn't need to be used in a movie to be hurtful or racist.
Sure, but has it ever dawned on you that perhaps your knee-jerk reaction to this scene is more a function of your own imagination? The tar baby isn't intended to be a black person. It only superficially resembles blackface because tar, a natural occurring substance, happens to be black. Again, the problem here seems to be a tendency to find racism in anything, for no other reason than the fact that it's colored black.
Maybe, but why couldn't it have been a honey baby or flypaper baby, or anything else?
Because tar is what was used in the story. I have no idea why it's a baby, though. I mean, why did it have to be a baby?
Even so, I'm still not satisfied. You avoided the issue of Remus's subordinate status in the film, and how the film repeatedly implies that African Americans thrived on the 18th century Southern plantation. If the movie isn't a depiction of happy slaves, it's still a depiction of overly content subjugated sharecroppers. And if it's not supposed to be about slaves, then why didn't Disney just come out and tell us in the course of the movie?
You know, I think I might know what's going on here. Bear with me here, but I don't think the problem with the movie is that it's too racist. I actually think the problem with the movie is that it isn't racist enough.
Come again?
Hear me out now. Disney knew that making a film about Song of the South in a racially divided 1940s America was going to be very difficult, but he chose the worst possible way of dealing with that difficulty. It's the same reason Disney avoided telling us about the setting of the movie. Disney desperately wanted to avoid the issue of race and slavery, and in fact, by doing so, he unintentionally made the movie appear more racist, under just the right light. If Disney had done the opposite and embraced the issue of race and slavery, head on, then the movie wouldn't be so widely misunderstood due to its upbeat and happy tone. Perhaps Uncle Remus could have addressed the fact that he was formerly a slave, as part of the narrative. Perhaps the black characters in the film could have shown their struggle to come to terms with life in the South during the Reconstruction period. Then there wouldn't have been such an unnatural tone, which gives rise to the intuition that something is fundamentally, morally wrong with this movie. Because people are complex entities, and though they be poor or enslaved, they aren't always just creatures of misery. But they have happy times too, and their own voice, and even moments of triumph. But at the same time, by attempting to sweep slavery clean under the rug, Disney unintentionally reduced the former slaves of the story into ridiculously saccharine caricatures that make many feel like this movie is almost a polemic for slavery. So I concede to you as far as that goes, but I stand by my general conviction that this film was not intentionally made to be racist by either its producer, director, or any of the writers or actors involved in its production. By that measure, the film cannot be called racist, even if some people will subjectively find reason to see it as such. Some people are like this regarding anything involving black actors, and such people simply cannot be helped.
I still think it's racist.
Fair enough. That's your prerogative. See the movie however you want. Just don't bury me and my legacy in the process. Listen, have you ever been on Splash Mountain?
The Disney ride? Of course, who hasn't? It's one of the best rides in the park.
And do you know what film that ride was based on?
Of course I know. Song of the South.
But where's Uncle Remus? Where's James Baskett on Splash Mountain? Disney has tons of attractions based on movies, just like Splash Mountain. But the difference is that all of those other rides recognize and honor the stars of their respective IPs. But Splash Mountain had become so artificially controversial by the 1980s that Disney Imagineers had to completely sidestep my legacy. And now, no one can see my movie either. No one is allowed to see my Academy Award-winning performance. So feel whatever you want about my movie, but don't erase James Baskett from film history just because of your righteous intuitions. If I can go to Best Buy and get myself a copy of Birth of the Nation anytime I'd like, then American audiences ought to be able to watch good old Uncle Remus singing Zippity-Doo-Dah right there on Disney+. Think of the children. Think of history. But just as importantly, don't forget James Baskett, or my sweet, sweet friend Oscar here. Zippity-doo-dah, zippity-yay, please bring back my movie today.